So today we have Dr. Ivan Meisner on today to share about the future of networking, and he shares a little bit about, of course, BNI over the past 40 years, and then looking forward to the future as well.
Thank you, Bethany. I appreciate you running these seminars, these webinars. And wow, it's amazing all the people. We have people from Canada, the Philippines, the US, several states in the US, Mexico, um, Colombia, all kinds of people, France, Malaysia. What a great turnout. I'm really impressed. Today I'm going to talk about the 40-year history briefly, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about the future of BNI as I see it. It is 40 years of the past and the vision for the future. And I am definitely happy to take some questions at the end. First, I want to take a little look at the past, so, look into the past of BNI and how we started. I literally started in this house. The office was up above, and we had a little part of the garage to do shipping in, and back in 1985. So this was BNI headquarters in 1985 for about 5 years or so, I think. It was in that house. This is the one office that we had in. If you look at this slide, the circle above in the house is this office here. It was basically a game room that we converted into an office for my consulting business and later for BNI. This is my original business card, the network. It was an AIM consulting affiliate. It started under my consulting business. The original name for the company was the Network. And here's one of our original lapel pins for the Network. We changed the name because we could not trademark the name The Network. It was too generic and it was untrademarkable. So we started working on changing the name in the late 80s, and finally by the early 90s, we were able to change it to BNI. Also in the early 90s, we moved out of my house that I just showed you because my late wife and I started having babies. And we needed a room. I actually, at that point, had turned another bedroom into an office, and we needed that other bedroom. So we moved to a house in Claremont that was in commercial land, but it was a house. And here's a photo of a very young Ivan, somewhere around 1990, 1991, in the shipping area of the Claremont home/office. So Claremont was our second location. A few years later, we moved to this location, BNI headquarters. Loved this office. We had the whole building. It was very relaxing to have the building there, and I thoroughly enjoyed that. But we outgrew that within about 8 years and moved to this location, BNI headquarters, in 2004. And today, as you may know, we have lots of locations. Our primary office is in Charlotte, but we're also in Mumbai, Bangalore, Sri Lanka, Mysore, Paris. We're in China, Castlebar, Ireland. We're in many countries around the world where we have regional offices. Headquarters, the global support team is still in Charlotte, or primarily in Charlotte. This is our growth for the last 40 years, technically 39. I am really pleased to say that it is almost a certainty that 2024 will end the year with growth. So we will have had 40 years of consecutive growth. Very few companies in the world can say that, and we can say that. We have had 40 years of growth. Even during COVID, BNI grew because people were desperate for business and they joined BNI. And so it truly is amazing to see the growth curve for the organization. And you can't really see recessions. I mean, like 2008, the Great Recession would have been right here. You can't see that at all. And other recessions throughout the years just don't show up. And so we have grown during recessions or during boom times. And it's very, it really pleases me to see the growth of this organization over the last 40 years. So let's talk about my 2017-2018 prediction. It's 2017-2018 because I first brought it up in 2017. And I wrote about it in 2018. And you can find an article on entrepreneur.com where I say basically that the future of face-to-face is online. And I said that at a BNI convention in 2017. And I did not get a good reaction from the directors. They were appalled that I thought that that we would need to develop some types of online platforms eventually. And then I wrote about it in 2018. I saw the technology advancing, but I didn't see COVID coming. I did not see COVID coming, but I did see the technology advancing. And it most certainly has been advancing. Let's reflect on the future. First and foremost, we're going to have a technology-enhanced networking. The online medium for BNI Connect, and the mobile app, are here to stay, and we're going to continue working on them. We have a number of ideas that we're working towards. One is a single sign-on for the first time, where you can sign on in one place and get access to BNI Connect, Business Builder, everything that you have access to. So that's one of the things. We are definitely going to continue to embrace technology. And we had last year in Dubai, we had a chapter president show up at a meeting as a hologram, and she ran the entire meeting as a holographic image. Now, clearly the technology is not there. Dubai had a member who did this technology for bringing in outside speakers. And so he wanted to show it, and he showed it with the president, who was not in the room. And this was the first time we've had a holographic image for a meeting. When we start doing that, if we ever get to that point where we're starting to do that, it's like the Jedi Knights. I want to be Obi-Wan Kenobi. Just saying, that's what I'd like to be. But I think this kind of thing is the future, whether we like it or not. We can embrace disruption, or we can be disrupted. And I prefer to embrace the disruption, as we did during COVID. Very few companies grew during COVID, but we did, because we embraced the opportunities that existed. We're going to have more and more data-driven analytics. And by this, I mean, we will look at the facts based on the data. And I hate it when my opinion is overturned by the data, but it's happened a couple of times. One was the use of substitutes, that chapters who use substitutes properly, that's the caveat, who use substitutes properly, meaning they're not just a place mark and they're not there to talk about themselves, they're there to talk about the person they're subbing for. Chapters who do it properly actually do better. Chapters that don't do it properly don't do better. So we want to have data-driven analytics. And now with BNI Connect, we can do that much easier. We can do that. One of the things that's very important to us is inclusive networking. And some people might think this is a factor just in the United States, but it's not. Many countries have issues with inclusive networking, starting with gender in some countries and ethnicity in some countries. And so inclusive networking is an important part of the future of this organization. Networks are by nature clumpy. That's the technical term. People tend to hang out with people like them, but that doesn't work well. What you want is you have a cluster you have a relationship with, but if you have people in that cluster that are different than you, they connect to other clusters of people that are different than you. So if you have a very inclusive network yourself, then you have these linkages to these other diverse networks. And the truth is, inclusive networking is not only the right thing to do, it's smart business. And so the more you can bring in young people, the more you can bring in women in some countries where they're not represented substantially, ethnicities where they may not be represented substantially, the better. Community and social impact is a very important thing for BNI. We have a BNI Foundation. It's, I think, the organization's best kept secret. I have been trying for years to get us to do a link on bni.com or a link on applications and renewals where people could donate to the BNI Foundation if they were interested in doing so. We have given away millions of dollars to charitable organizations all around the world. Our focus on the BNI Foundation is children and education. And it was started in 1998, the foundation, and has done amazing things. An organization with the philosophy of giver's gain is absolutely going to want to support causes in their local area. We are not a community service organization, but there's nothing wrong with a charitable focus from time to time. And I invite you to go to the BNI Foundation website, bnifoundation.com, and check it out. More and more, we want to see enhanced member engagement, and particularly through things like Business Builder. Business Builder is another thing that some members just haven't used. Although we've had hundreds of thousands, if not millions, hours used on Business Builder. In order to get engagement of members worldwide, you need to actively be involved in things like Business Builder, listening to BNI podcast, reading my blog. These things get member engagement. Doing one-to-ones, which I have a podcast on, that really gets member engagement. And we have data on this, that if you do 4 one-to-ones a month, you're going to double the amount of business that you get if you are only doing 1 one-to-one a month. So if you do 1 one-to-one a month versus 4 one-to-ones a month, you will double the amount of business that you get in a BNI chapter. So engagement is critical. I want to see gamification on the platform. We have gamification worldwide, but I don't believe we have it on a chapter level or even a regional level yet. And I think we need it on a chapter level, where if you are engaged in the learning in the CEUs, you show up higher in rankings to show people who's really engaged in the process. And that concept is called gamification. So I'm a big believer in that, and I think that's a direction that we will be going. We need to strengthen our global connections. BNI Connect can be utilized much more effectively. People come to me and say, "How do I connect with people around the world?" And I'm like, "Are you on BNI Connect?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm on." "But are you on any groups in BNI Connect?" "No." Well, so you want to strengthen your global connections, but you're not connecting with people globally on BNI Connect? Think about this. BNI has over 330,000 members. If you want to strengthen your global connections, get on BNI Connect, join a group, have conversations. That's the way to strengthen global connections. It's another engagement issue, but BNI Connect can absolutely help you do that. I know there are lawyer groups, there are travel agency groups, there are real estate groups, and they all really help one another in BNI Connect. We want to strengthen leadership development, and here Business Builder is important. And a lot of people don't know this, which I find amazing, but there are actually 18 videos on BNI's Business Builder. 18 videos with John Maxwell, who is, in my opinion, the world's leading expert on leadership. He and I talk about leadership and how it relates to BNI. And it is amazing that we were able to get John to do 18 videos with us. They're all short, 3 minutes, 4 minutes. I think the longest is 6 minutes, short bite-sized pieces. But if you want to improve your leadership as a business person, particularly if you're on the leadership team, you should watch every one of these videos on BNI Business Builder. They're amazing. We want to respond to industry trends, just like we did with COVID. We responded very quickly with COVID, and most of the credit goes to Graham Weimiller, who was the CEO at the time, and he's now chairman. And he really saw COVID coming, and we were able to transition to online pretty quickly. Almost 10,000, we had 9,800 chapters at the time. Almost all of them transitioned within a few months, and actually within a few weeks in every country. And it was really quite amazing to observe. So we want to be able to continue to respond to industry trends. We also want to strengthen data analytics, and we want to maintain a personal touch. You've got to maintain a personal touch. The personal touch varies. I can't meet 330,000 members. I can't go to 11,200 chapters, but I can do Zoom webinars like this and have personal connection with people. In this kind of environment, I can do podcasts and respond to members via the podcasts. So the personal touch is still very important, and it's very important all the way down to the chapter level. Leadership teams need to have that personal touch. So that's some of the things that I see for the future of BNI. What I'd like to do now is to open it up for any questions that you might have. The only dumb question is the unasked question. So whatever's on your mind is okay with me. I'm happy to answer it.
What advice would you give to current and then future BNI members who really want to maximize the value of their networking efforts?
Well, there's a number of things that you want to do. One is build a power team in your chapter. The power teams are really important. One-to-ones are very important. And if I have a chance, I'll find the podcast with one-to-ones. You can also use AI to help you in your chapter. And I'll give you an example. I was writing, we had a sedan service that I was using. It was a BNI member. And they said, we don't really know, we want to have a power team, but we don't really know who our power team would be. And I said, well, let me check. Let me check on AI. And I got on AI and I explained what a context sphere was, what a power team was. And I said, what would be a good power team for a sedan service? And it gave me like 12 different points, 12 different professions. And I shared them with him, and he was like, wow, I would have never thought of some of these. I mean, one of them was a wedding planner. When you have a wedding, oftentimes there are people from out of town that come in. And so you set up the sedan service to be able to pick them up. Hotels with, VIP guests or guests who ask for a sedan service. And there were like 12 different professions. So use AI to ask questions to get the kinds of answers that you want, and then stay engaged in your chapter. That's, don't be a minnow, member in name only. Be engaged. And I'm gonna give you the podcast for one-to-ones. It is episode number 570. More one-to-ones equal more referrals. It's based on research done at a university on a BNI region, and it's really clear that the people who do more one-to-ones get more business. Okay.
I love that. Yeah. And definitely use the resources. There are so many amazing podcasts that are specific.
Over 800.
Yeah, I was going to say. So that's excellent.
I had someone the other day, Bethany, say, I am old school on learning. So I started with podcast number 1.
There you go.
And he's been a member for several years. He said, I have just finished your latest podcast, which I think was podcast 890 when he sent it to me. It's 891 now.
Wow. That's great. No, there's so many good tidbits and content within those podcasts. So yeah, I do recommend for everyone to check those out. We have a question from Andrew that came in the chat or the Q&A bar. He said he's a new BNI member whose chapter just launched 3 weeks ago. So he's a baby member. But what are practical things that he can do that relates to your talk now? He's a newbie member, as he says.
Yeah, so I'm going to put another podcast in. It's called 3+1 for member success, I think it is. And these are the things that you can do. And frankly, new member or mature member, these things work. But for a new member, I would definitely focus on these things. And I found it here. I'll put it in the chat box right now. The three things are embrace quality. You want to maintain quality in your chapter. And the second is grow your chapter, grow your team. Now, people ask me, what's more important, growing the chapter or quality? And my answer to that is, what's more important, your left hand or your right hand? They're both kind of pretty important. Now, for me, I'm right-handed, so I'd say, quality for me, that'd be my right hand. It's a little bit more important, but the size of the chapter absolutely makes a difference in the amount of referrals that are generated. In India, they have chapters that are $1 million chapters. They do $1 million a month. A month. Not a year, a month. And virtually every one of those chapters have over 50 members. And so there is a direct and dramatic linear between the size of the chapter with quality members and the amount of business that's generated. So the third engagement, which I've been talking about over and over, the podcasts and my blog, and of course, Business Builder, those are obvious. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, absolutely. No, absolutely. Just getting engaged, even if you are a brand new member, getting engaged and using the tools that we have. And I know, of course, you mentioned BNI Connect. There's new features on BNI Connect, I feel like every month. So definitely checking those out. In regards to, a chapter that, maybe they're helping getting their chapters to get offline and move back to a more frequent in-person meeting. Do you have any advice on how to maybe encourage the more in-person meetings?
So are they a hybrid chapter? Is that what he's saying?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I like hybrid chapters. And I recently, remember I said I started making decisions based on data.
Mm-hmm.
And I just saw some data that shows that the hybrid and online chapters don't get as many visitors as the in-person chapters. Now, this is very preliminary data. I wouldn't take it to the bank. But if you're going to remain hybrid, you really want to focus on getting visitors to your meeting, or online, you want to focus on getting visitors to your meeting. If you want to go back in person, listen, I started BNI in person, so I'm all for in person, but you will lose people. There are people who get entrenched in whatever they're doing, and you're going to lose them. So I would recommend that you don't rip the Band-Aid off and flip it quickly. I would transition over time and let people get used to the idea. I hope that helps.
Someone asked if you could suggest a good group to be for a content writer, or places that they could get involved. They're in content writing and they would like some advice on how to get more connections or how to get more involved.
Any chapter, just about. It could be good for people who do content writing, because you have people in the chapter who may need to have marketing content. They may want to do PR by doing, knowledge posts, information posts, and they don't have time to flesh it all out, and they can have a conversation with you. So you want to get creative about what your pitch is, what your weekly presentation is with content writing. I would say there's no one chapter that would have necessarily the right people. But certainly you'd want somebody in the chapter that does PR. And social media. You'd want somebody in the chapter that does social media. And I would try to get into a chapter that's 50 or more members if you can. because then you have a lot of
options.
opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely. Just to kickstart gamification at chapter levels, how can we do that? What are some other ideas?
Well, it's got to be done by BNI Connect, the BNI Connect team. We have gamification worldwide, but that's not effective. And so it's got to be done by the BNI Connect team. So I've been nudging them for a few years. It's not going to happen quickly, but I think it's inevitable to happen. And I'm a big fan of it. It absolutely works. It absolutely works. I remember, kind of being on the fence with this, and I downloaded Waze, which is a traffic app. And I remember it's gamification. I remember going from being a Waze baby to a Wazer to something else, Waze royalty, and then a Waze king and queen. And I remember looking at that going, yeah, I did a Waze king. And then I thought, seriously, you have 3 college degrees and you cared about being a Waze king? But I did. And so gamification, it works with most people. And it works on a number of levels, not only trying to be number 1, we're trying to be in the top 10, but it works on the bottom because nobody wants to be on the bottom. And so if you can do gamification at a chapter level, which is what I'm trying to get done, you will have people who are at the bottom get engaged so they're no longer last.
So if you are the president or if you're the VP, secretary, treasurer, how does that impact your business?
It gives you more exposure. And I've done podcasts on this. I don't know what number it is, but I've done podcasts on this. If you are on the leadership team, and I'll give you a true story. Years ago, they were called, throwaway papers. They're weekly papers for a local community. So it's a community paper. And they took a photograph of the new leadership team in a chapter. And the person who was the president got a phone call from an old college friend. And he said, hey, I saw you in the local community newspaper. Looks like you're doing well. He was a contractor, building contractor. Looks like you're doing really well. I'd love to get together for lunch and maybe talk about some potential business projects. And he said, sure, and got together for lunch. And the person who read the newspaper had known him really well. They were good friends a long time ago, and then they kind of lost touch. And he had done some research on the guy and to see, how he was doing now, and saw nothing but great things. And he said, well, look, I'll be honest with you. The reason I wanted to meet with you is I've got a commercial building that's, I just bought the land. I got a commercial building that's ready to go up. The architecture is all finished. It's a multi-million-dollar project. I can't think of a better person to do it than you. Could you come in and give me a bid? And he got it. He got it because he was the chapter president and was in the newspaper. Now, he had a long-term relationship with the guy, but who's to say he would have ever known that guy would have ever known, because it was in a different city than where they both met. And so the exposure is good on the leadership team. And also, if you really engage in the leadership learning, like the 18 videos, you're going to be a better leader. I can't tell you how many leadership team people I know who have said, I am a better leader by being on the leadership team in BNI.
What would your recommendations be on making online meetings maybe more interactive, or what are things that even just the members can do, following, of course, the agenda and things like that, the normal traditional things that we know work, but how can they be more interactive?
Well, you should be, when you do the online meetings, you should be breaking up into groups in the beginning to make it very interactive. And you want to make sure that visitors get into groups with members so that they can meet members. You can do, to make it more interactive at the end of the meeting, you can do one-to-ones with people. At the end of the meeting, get on another Zoom line and do a one-to-one. Frankly, the online meetings are in many ways as engaging as in person. The one big problem is people doing emails or texting while they're listening to the meetings. And so one of the things I say is take notes at each meeting so that you stay engaged. So, create a calendar item on end each week. When somebody says something that really stands out to you, make a note of it in your calendar so you can go back and look at some of the things that people said.
What do you see in the future as an ideal average chapter size, quality, of course, taken into account, to further grow BNI globally?
Over 40, without a doubt. 50 or more is probably ideal. Chapters of 50 or more members they're generating 3 times the amount of referrals that a chapter of 25 members is. And we have hard data on that, and there's podcasts on that. That sounds large, but we have chapters over 100. We have one chapter, it's over 200. Yeah, 50 or more, I think.
Maybe the biggest challenge BNI has faced this year, and then what the framework is to solve issues quickly, if there is a framework.
Well, I wouldn't say it was our biggest challenge, but it was our biggest transition. Graham Weimiller has been the CEO for 10 years. He transitioned to chairman of BNI, and we brought in Mary Thompson, and she's amazing. And so it was a problem. It was fantastic, but there's a transition. Whenever you transition a CEO, there's a learning curve. And my experience with Mary so far has been outstanding, absolutely, hands down, outstanding. She comes to the table with great business experience, franchise experience. And the thing I loved the most was that she used to be a BNI member years ago. She was a member of BNI and then got promoted for her franchise. She got promoted from her franchise to the corporate office. And when you're working in the corporate office, you can't do BNI anymore. And Mary is back in a BNI chapter. As a matter of fact, in Charlotte, she's going to a BNI chapter. The transition was an interesting one, but I would say very good. I don't know that directly answered the question, but we really didn't have a lot of major problems that I can think of.
What would you like to say to those watching today about how they can be a part of BNI's exciting journey forward? Of course, we're so excited about celebrating 40 years and then the future. So how can people that are on today get involved?
BNI is not only a great way to get business, it's an even better way to do business because of our principal core value of giver's gain, this idea that if I help you, you'll help me. We'll all do better as a result of it. The record speaks for itself, 40 years of consecutive growth. We're going to do something close to 25 billion in Thank You for Closed Business. Now, for those of you who don't know, Thank You for Closed Business is the amount of business our members generated through BNI. And 25 billion, there are actually 100 countries in the world with a lower GDP based on the United Nations than what BNI did in Thank You for Closed Business this year. I'm humbled by what BNI has become. If you're just visiting, you go visit a chapter, and it really truly is amazing. And if you're in a chapter, get engaged. I promise you, the more engaged you get in the chapter, the more excited you're going to be. We have members that have been members for 40 years in BNI, 40 years. So I invite you to join them.
Thank you, Ivan. I really appreciate your time today. Thank you all for joining. We appreciate this final webinar for our BNI Through the Decades series.